You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Well, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here, and our guest today is Ryan Carter. We're going to talk about the recent film that we just dropped, The Struggle, about my archery elk hunt from this past August, September. It was a grind. I hope you guys have enjoyed the film. I got a chance to watch it. And for those that don't, go check it out. It's worth your time. It was great to sit down with Ryan because he was with me throughout the journey. He's going to talk a little bit about it today. We're going to just sort of, riff on the film and our experience with archery elk hunting. I think you'll enjoy it. Yep. This discussion with Ryan went on for quite a while, so we split it into at least 2 parts. It might be 3. We won't know until we're done with the edit, but we're going to get it out to you right away. And hope you're having a great Thanksgiving week. Don't forget that we have a big giveaway going on right now for a wolf hunt this March. And if you want to get in on that, it's a hunt with Ryan and Lampers and myself. And the only thing you got to do is go shop at the Gritty store, get a hat, a shirt, a t-shirt, something like that, a sticker, or go to Stealthy Hunter and get some supplements or a rifle cover glassing pad if you haven't already. It's a great time to buy a gift for Christmas for someone. So
be sure to use the code WOLF at both locations.
Yep. Use the code WOLF and you'll be entered to win. And then not only do you win a cool hunt with us, but you'll get a Weatherby gift
card with a scope, and you get Tricer gear, all the good stuff.
Yep.
Boots.
And boots. And anyway, we're excited to do that giveaway. We're going to pick that winner on December 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, but you have until December 1st at midnight to shop and get entered to win. But we just want to say thank you so much for always supporting us and all the kind comments on the movie. It's been the movies, the wolf film, and this elk film. It's been great. Can't wait to bring you the next show, which is going to be December 8th. And thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here with me, who is on this elk hunt, struggling on the struggle.
The struggle was real. I mean, I just kept pulling them in. No, I'm just kidding.
And we've got Ryan Carter here as a guest as well. And Ryan, thank you for taking the time to come down here and hang out.
You bet.
And basically, I wanted to just sit down with you guys and talk about the hunt a little bit. And I was thinking about this on the way down. Ryan was kind of like my therapist on the hunt.
That's what I'm good at.
For real. I think as an outfitter guide, you're like just talking guys off ledges most of the time.
Archers, for sure.
Right? Because there's so much that can go wrong. And I had some real ups and some real downs on this hunt. And I have a text for people that watch the movie, The Struggle. You know, you've seen the story. For those that don't, I just go check out the movie. But on this, I sent you this text. It was when I blew it that day.
Yep. We'd put so many days.
Oh, the one you walked in on the bull.
Yeah, yep. I said, hey, this is a text to you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hunting this same bull and been close many times. This morning I was slipping into the meadow he likes to feed in just at daybreak. I accidentally got to within 15 feet of him. We were both shocked as heck, and he bolted away. I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Is he spooked out of his mind and staying clear of this meadow for a while, or is he going to forget about this little scare and stick to his usual routine? Is it business as usual? And you sent me this crushing text. You're like,
just without you even saying, and I don't remember. I already know what the answer is, and it is crushing. So go ahead.
Yeah. So you wrote, typically they pull the pin. Usually they stay in one spot like that because they feel safe. Otherwise, they will be running their routes. Who knows, though? Elk are funny. He may brush it off and come back. Is it an area you can follow his track? And so we exchanged more, and we kind of went back and forth. And one of the things that you basically said was, look, the only way you're going to find out is to keep hunting and see if he comes back, if he's there. Or go someplace else. And so I decided, he circled back a few times. I don't have anything else to try. So I'm just going to try some more. He was gone.
Oh yeah.
Never saw him again.
Yeah.
And, you know, for backstory, this tag starts mid-August, roughly. And at that point, they had just rubbed their antlers. They still had a little velvet dangling on the first day of the season.
I still had a couple still in velvet.
Yeah.
Little guys.
So here they are. You know, it's that moment of the season when it starts. And they were very routine. They had a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, because we talked ahead of time, you have like a window. Well, you can leverage that. How long do you think that window is in your experience?
They all vary. Younger bulls, the window's bigger. Older bulls, it's pretty slim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to hunt. He stuck around in that spot for about 8 days.
When this was Hook.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it was interesting watching your video and thinking about our conversations.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way through. Watching you guys name bulls.
Right.
Watching you guys argue. and just so you know and Brad knows,
Yeah.
I would have shot Wonton over James Reese. Just
See,
I'm an age guy.
Yeah.
I know that bull, so I'm like,
that settles it. That's how I was.
I am losing the wonton debate mightily.
Like, I think one, age.
I'm getting crushed in the comment section. Of
oh,
the video.
really? That's
two,
hilarious.
characteristics. Like the characteristics of that bull, they are. I don't know. It's hard to. He's just cool. He's unique, and I'm like always like, and again, knowing how old that bull is too, I'm like, man, the oldest bull on the mountain is like where it's at. That's the bull that I would want to take down.
Blah blah.
And he's just cool, man. He's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's interesting. That's where like a lot of comments are stemming.
Oh yeah, like people have opinions, which that's the whole scene in that film.
right.
I mean, Brian, I don't know. I had so much fun arguing about the merits of each bull and the scouting part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. It'd been so long. I used to hang cameras for black-tailed deer, you know, when I lived in Oregon. And they were imperative to lead me to success. It was because they're just so nocturnal and they barely move. And then there's that magic 5 to 10 days where they finally get on their feet and you might get this giant buck. But the rest of the year, you almost never see them. And but when it's that moment, you start getting pictures of giants. It's like, I had no idea this thing was there. You know, would never know without a camera. Mm-hmm. And it really does make it fun. But since I moved out west, you know, into the Rockies here, I just didn't use cameras. I haven't had that type of hunt.
Mm-hmm.
This time I did, and I hung cameras all over the place. And then when I got pictures and I got to study this caliber of bulls that were there, dude, it was so fun. So fun. Cameras they were fun. They made it really, you just couldn't wait to get down and see what's there.
It's like Christmas every time you go get new cards, you know, you're like, what do I got on here now, you know?
Well, and that's the whole point of the camera, right? The whole point is to assess age class. That's all we're doing. We're trying to figure out what do we have, what do we not pass on first day,
Yeah.
Brian. Like, that's what we're doing.
Right.
And it was fun watching your video and seeing you
that
passed
stud.
a stellar bull.
That bull I call Bones, I just, you know, I look at that and Ryan, it was the first day.
So
I know, no, you made the right decision. No, you did. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm with you on board. Like, you wouldn't have had this story.
right.
You'd have just been like, Boulder wasn't that bad. Maybe I could have held out for bigger.
So I'm going to throw in my opinion here because being the camera guy, being like still wanting to be able to tell a story and stuff, Brian called me and he sends me pictures of this bull at 50 yards and he's like, hey, I just passed on this bull this morning. And I'm like, gosh, Brian, like, are you kidding me? That is a stud. Like, he's got maybe mass, length. Like, he's just a solid bull. And I'm like, I get it, the story. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, it's bow hunting.
I had waited 19 years to draw this tag, and I've been looking forward to it for 2-3 months as I scouted throughout the whole year. And to shoot a bull in the first 15 minutes, 30 minutes of the hunt,
Yep.
I wanted to experience the hunt, the unit. I wanted it, and
that's those gray hairs talking.
Well,
No, I'm telling you, like, you learn over time. Like, I had a sheep tag. I think I was 25 years into it ish.
yeah,
and went down there and Struck out my first spot. Second spot, I went out, found a big group. Third spot, found the ram I killed and shot him. And there were a lot of factors in there. I had another outfitter moving in on the same ram. He met the bar. It's like that bull you passed first day. He met the bar.
Yeah.
Right? Like we don't pass 360.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that bull was. 360, 365.
Yep.
You passed him. And my sheep met the bar. And the other outfitter's moving in and I killed him. And I about puked. Had nothing to do with excitement or adrenaline, but just like, what did I do?
The hunt's over.
Seriously, what did I now tags it? Yep, there he is. Dead sheep, 3 days.
For sure, like there's a reward, like it's self-imposed. I tried to say that at the outset of the film. Look, there's some challenges we set for our, like struggles we go through in life. Some are like pushed upon us. Choosing not to shoot that bull in the first 20 minutes was a self-imposed struggle. Because the rest of the season, I struggled to get myself in front of another bull like that. And like I said, if it was just a weekend, I'd have shot him. If it was 10 days into the hunt, you know. But I prize the experience and the challenge more than I do the animal now.
That's why I say it's the gray hair talking.
Yeah.
Self-imposed is a kick in the nuts.
And on my end too, like every day I wasn't there in that first week of the season, every time Brian was calling me, I'm like, oh, he shot a bull. Like I wanted, it's kind of like Jeremiah's sheep hunt. Like I wanted to be on that hunt. I wanted to film that hunt. And so every time that you were texting me or calling me, I'm like, crap, he just shot a bull. Every time I saw Brian call, I'm like, damn it, the hunt's over. So it's like, I'm not going to get down there. And then as you said, no, this is the case. This is happening. I passed on this bull. It's been hard here. I got a little more excited. And I mean, I was blessed. I was super excited to go down and film that hunt just because one, the caliber of bulls, and two, to hopefully tell a good story on the other end of it, you know?
You know, what's crazy is you knew about some of these bulls like Wonton. Mm. You know, you've seen this bull in the past. And so it's kind of cool to know an elk is that old, you know? And he started out a little small, but he blew up by the time the season was starting.
My older bulls, I don't know why, and I don't know if it's Southern Utah thing.
Yeah.
Like you get to July 4th and you start pulling your, like, okay, this bull's going to make the list. This one's going to. A lot of my older age class, I don't know till the 20th.
Really?
It's really strange. And so, like you say, to Wonton's kind of, I mean, it just goes to all my older bulls. That's what it is.
You know, in my defense, you know, I'm not familiar a lot with watching these bulls grow in velvet, you know, so I'm peeking, you know, I'm picking your brain on some of that as the season goes. And that bull we called John Wick, we had that bull, like that picture was taken like June 15 or something, June 12 or something like that. It was early in June and he looked giant. And so Wonton didn't look anything like him.
Right.
But then a month later, I got more pictures of Wonton. I was like, when I went back and checked the cards.
Reese was the same way.
Yeah.
Did you see Reese?
You showed us Reese, and I was like,
yeah.
Okay, so it was July 2nd. We had July 2nd was KUIU.
Yeah. So but he was also, some of those pictures are earlier than that with KUIU.
The latest I have of KUIU
is that latest.
Yeah, but he looked big, like the 26th. Yeah. I remember. Right. Yeah.
And then we had James Reese on the 9th. Was the only photo we got of him.
But Wonton's picture
all day, every day.
When is Wonton's? It's late.
It's late. I think like the 22nd is the last one we have of him.
July.
Yeah.
So all I had was I had John Wick back in you know, late June, and then I have these pictures of Wonton a month later. And so in my mind, I'm thinking if John Wick was that big, if KUIU was that big a month ago, then he must have added more.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't look as bulbous. He looks kind of closer to being hard horned a little bit. And so I guess what I was thinking was, Brad, there's no way that KUIU doesn't outscore Wonton based on the dates of the photos and because I'm guessing where Keanu would have finished off. You know what I mean? If you were to just go picture to picture,
Wonton.
it's hard. I did mock Brad a little bit. I went hard on that, but I can't deny the mass on Wonton is cool, and just the uniqueness of him.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a stud boy.
And in the end, none of it mattered.
None of it mattered.
Dude,
and exactly
all that work, all that effort, all that time. Did you see any of them?
We only saw one bull. 007 was the only bull we saw that we actually had like photos of. We saw live on the hoof.
I saw him.
Okay.
Yep.
And he was probably half a mile from where I got the pictures of him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's pretty.
And they were all probably right there.
I know.
Right.
They just shifted a little bit.
Dude.
Exactly.
It's like the square turns this much, and now you're in all the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're still on the old corners.
And it's so thick and stuff too.
It's
Like
so thick.
you don't know. Like,
Well,
they're there.
What's crazy though is, I plastered the area with cameras, and I had my bulls, and not 2,000 yards. I have hook, bones, and flint.
Right.
I never saw them on camera.
Yeah.
Right.
4 weeks earlier, whatever it was, 3 weeks earlier. I never saw them on camera. So I was disappointed I couldn't find the bulls that I had scouted and kind of dreamt about. But at the same time, like, I found these bulls. So who cares? And
Right.
in the end, we talked about this while we were out there. What if I never see any bull? Not one that I preseason scouted. And I knew that was a possibility.
Yeah, you said it in the film.
I was like, I don't care. Because this process was really fulfilling. It was fun.
And the rut mixes up everything too. Once
I
they start
told Brad,
rut, kind of like the cards are shuffled again.
Yeah.
I told Brad, I was like, what a cool experience if I could find the bull, pattern the bull, and then kill the bull. I would rather do that than just wander around, find a giant, and stalk him and kill him. Turns out that that's what I did. Toward the end, I just wandered around, saw him, killed him. It wasn't a bull that I stalked, that I planned, that I had done all this research around. It wasn't one of those moments. And in hindsight, I'm glad it actually went that way.
Yeah. There's some, like, what you don't see because, towards the end of that hunt was, it kind of became, I was not necessarily the full camera guy. I was like, we're trying to kill a bull. And so I was caller.
We're lucky we have video of him.
And there's a couple bulls.
What he's trying to say.
Yeah. And there's a couple bulls we pulled in, like, you don't see on film that, they are giant, like, monsters.
Right. I believe you because I know. I can't even get my phone out half the time because my job is to make sure they die.
Yeah, right.
So the camera's the last priority.
Yep.
So I know what you're saying. But the whole time I'm watching that film, I'm thinking, thank God for Brad. I thought that probably 10 times. Like, so nice to have a guy just sticking you through that, especially through that last part. And I got to tell you, dude, I look back at my hunts. I look at my guy this year. He didn't fill his tag. He shot a bull. And the bull was killed later. Like, he was fine. He was harvested, tag put on him. The hardest hunt of my life, my bow hunter this year. He didn't get it all. He got the shot. He made multiple spot and stalks. He left, came back. He got the frustrations, the downs, but he missed the scouting. And I look at all my bow hunters through all the years, the people who killed on patterns, the people who killed on ambush, the people that only killed on the rut. Dude, I was really thinking about this watching your film. The only person that I've ever had get the full experience, what you got on film, was Kyle Ostrin with MJ. In all my years of doing this.
I can see why.
Dude,
you can get so frustrated. Like, I think you do have a good opportunity the first 5 days of that season because they're super patternable.
I could have shot bones, and more than once probably. I didn't go for him another time. I could have shot Flint. He was in front of me for like 5 minutes at 50 yards. He's that
6x7.
6x7. Yep. I asked you, I sent you a picture. I'm like, so I'm trying to decide what to do with this bull here. What do you think? And I said, what does it score? You said, who cares? He's huge. Kill him. And I was like, yeah, I'm overthinking this. And the attitude changes 3 days in, 4 days in, 6 days in. You texted me and you said, hey, dude,
18 days
I'm not trying to I don't want to freak you out, but you need to kill him, because if you don't, they're all going to move here real soon. If they're not moving now, your window's closing for this phase.
Mm-hmm.
So capitalize, or you're going to start over, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And on Hook, that night before we spooked him, Brad and I got in there, and
first day I was there.
Yep. And we were glassing from the ridge, and I'm like, I haven't seen him in a few days. He was right there. I saw Flint there yesterday. I almost killed him, but there was no cameraman. I was by myself, and I'm like, it'd be cool, but he's not quite the bull I wanted. Still 350, 360, and but on top of that, there's no story. There's no camera. There's no nothing, and I still had 20 days. So I'm like, I just decided to watch him. And then I told him and my buddies, and they're like, you're an idiot. So, and you seriously start to question if you are. And then we bombed down there, and I was like, finally, I have a cameraman. It's my iPhone, but we're going to kill this bull. And I actually could have, I think, walked up to that meadow and shot at 80 yards. He looked down, but he'd look away and feed.
Yeah, and there was enough obscure with the quakies and stuff there. Like we could have slipped in a little more.
If it was like
this was when you were filming the part with the iPhone.
Yeah, it was the first day I was there. It was like, we're in it right now. And
it's the first time Brad showed up. He showed up that afternoon, and we saw the bull from the rim where I'd seen him.
Mm-hmm.
And it took about an hour to drive down, get out, and then hike mile or two up there and get on this meadow. So we did it right, and we crept in.
I was going to say that probably gave you enough time for the wind to shift.
It was.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, I could sneak into 80 and shoot for sure. And that's in my range. I could do it. But I was like, you know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He'll be here in the morning. Just be patient. There's like, I could slip in. 80's not my favorite range, that's a long poke.
And for my end, it was like, yeah, it'd be cool if we killed it, but also,
and he's like, I don't have a good camera. He's like, I don't have
film.
And he just got there. He wanted to experience the hunt, so he's discouraging me from shooting the bull that night. So I was like, all right. So we sat there. It was getting dark pretty quick. We backed out. The next day, we went in the morning per our plan. It was actually, it was like the next day.
Yeah, it was.
And
right off the bat, there was that doe. Like we slipped into the meadow, and she was like radar technology every time. It didn't matter how quiet or whatever.
That's the thing we didn't include in the video is Hook didn't actually, we were on top of him. He's just laying there. I just didn't see him. And it was still a little low light.
Oh, we talked on the phone, I remember.
But what there was a doe next to him, like 10 feet from him.
Yep.
And that, she saw me and she heard me, and she's just so much more alert than the elk was. And she busted me 3 times in that damn meadow. I hated her guts. I wanted to murder her.
Well, the one time we're literally sitting there with wind to change. We're sitting there at dark, before it got dark, waiting. Maybe he'll come in and feed. And we are shadowed up under the tree, backdrop,
still as can be.
And out of nowhere,
wind
she comes up at 35 yards and just like right to us.
She comes from 150 yards across the meadow right to us. And I'm like, how does she see us? Like
sonar technology, something. Because she was pinpointed.
Other does and stuff walked by us, but with fawns, but this particular doe, she was
every time.
So she busted us. And Hook was like, what is she freaking out about? And by the time he stood up and I saw him, he was looking right at me. We were so close, and I wasn't looking there. I wasn't looking on the trail in the timber.
Yeah.
I was kind of looking in.
And there's just
clearing in front of you.
There's just a small fold right there where he just happened to be.
Just a little dip.
Just barely.
But I mean, when a bull, there's a difference between being bumped and like you scared the living daylights out of him. Like he knew exactly what we were.
Oh, yeah.
And when he realized how much we had penetrated his bubble, you could just see the reaction, like the freak out and the way he ran up that mountain. And I was like,
Yep.
I think it's over. I think it's over.
No, that's why you were so sick.
Yeah.
You said in the film, like, I feel like I'm going to puke.
Oh, like,
And you knew that's what it is. And that's bow hunting. You weren't trying to capture a kill. You just said it. You were trying to tell a story. You accomplished both.
When Hook disappeared, though, Ryan, that was an all-time low because I'd got my sights set on him so much, and you probably experienced this too. I didn't care if there was a bigger bull. I didn't care if there was another bull. Like, I had become obsessed with that one. That was the one I wanted. That was the one that I had wanted to prove to myself I could outsmart.
All-time low for you, personally. Yeah. No, that's 90% of my bow hunters.
well, and I kept telling Brian, I was like, hey, dude, we got to remember, like, don't forget the feeling of excitement you had leading up to that season, to the start of the season. Like, let's don't forget that throughout the season. There's going to be those highs and lows, but, like, just remember how excited we've been coming into this hunt.
Well, it was huge with Brad and you because Brad is right. I'm not a quitter. I'll stay, but I won't stay with the same attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that,
I could tell.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, when I was on the phone with you and you had said and it really hit me, you said, dude, I love it that it's so hard. I love the failure. I mean, like, right on. Like, of course, that's bow hunting. Failure after failure after failure. I love it. And I'm thinking, And it dawned on me, like, my attitude needed to change. Like, I needed to look at this as this moment to just enjoy each of those failures in a sense. And then you said, Brian, look, the burden's really not that big on you. You could screw up 16, 15, 20 times. The bull that you kill, he just has to screw up once and it's over.
Yep.
And I was like, you heard me in the video. I'm like,
I love that you remembered that. It's one of my favorite sayings.
I was like, all I need is for some handsome bull to make. And that was right after I had talked to you. And I was like,
yeah.
I just need a bull to make one mistake and he's dead. Just make that, step out in front of me and you're dead. And so that really helped. And then Brad was like, hey, we need to go home for a day or two because
I knew we had 11 days left in the season. And I was like, you'd been out there
the whole time,
before the season
3 days
started.
before it started and the whole time.
Right.
And like 6 days by myself.
Yeah.
And he's like, we need to go home so you can just sort of
reset
a little bit, come back with the excitement that you started the hunt with. And I'll tell you, going home for just a couple days and coming back, when I got back, I was like, yeah, let's find these elk.
Dude, I tell guys all the time, please go home for a day. I can't, Kyle Oster and I can never get to do it. He went so far as to have his wife fly out to camp. And it still wasn't the same. I'm like, dude, just go home.
Yeah, because when you're still in camp, you're still thinking about
a day or
all that
two,
stuff.
and then it hits the same thing you said, like, I'm here, I'm not at home on the couch. Like, it's going to happen. You just need that quick readjustment to realize where you are and what you're doing. This is hard for someone to listen to a podcast and understand, but those lows are so low.
Yeah. Like
I always tease Kyle, he turns into crack Kyle. Like he's kind of like, everything. Do you think you went this way? Do you think you did this? And I'm like, that's freaking hell. They're not that smart, dude. Like, we just got to kick into whatever little hole he walked into.
The thing is, Ryan, is as the season progressed, like, there is public pressure for me a little bit because I choose to make my life public in this space and share hunting adventures. And there is sort of somewhat of an expectation that I'm capable because I present myself as such and I have been in the past. So there is a little bit of, outward pressure to succeed. But the biggest pressure, I don't feel that. I think one of the reasons I've been fairly successful at doing what I do is because I'm not that worried about what people think of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be as frankly open as I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be more guarded, probably share less. But I'm kind of like, look, I am what I am. And I'm really not too worried about what people think. But I put a lot of personal pressure on me. Like, I set that goal for myself to get a big bull. And when I failed and came up empty, and when Hook was gone, and we had hunted days and didn't find any elk, like, they were gone. Where the did they go? I couldn't find a cow, and when that happened, I was like, okay, I have to really, really start over. And there's like 8 days left.
Yeah. To me, there's like 3 seasons to that one tag. You have your opening, your beginning. It's like they're still velvet, they're still patternable. And then you have that 5 or 10 day stretch where they're holed up, they're getting, they're getting hard horned, they're hard to find. And then when we said to go home, I was thinking in my head, like, okay, these last 7, 8, 9 days, the rut's going to kick in. Like, we're going to have a whole new season. And I was like, I'm hoping that I can use my ability to maybe call some of these bulls in, because we're struggling. Like, we're not seeing them.
They're not talking.
They're not
either.
talking.
So I'm not like just able to follow a bugle or locate something.
And so, like, I think those extra days, we go home, we come back, those extra days will help slingshot the rut. It'll be coming closer, and then we can start to make our own rut in a way.
But there's that middle phase, like you're talking about Kyle freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a middle phase there where I was like, before I had reconciled myself to the very likely possibility that I didn't get anything, I still refused to sort of accept that. As when I finally got there, I was like, no, that's a damn good possibility that you come home without a big bull, and it's like, well, that's life. And all I could do at that point, I accepted it. I just didn't do my best. Mm-hmm. But there was some little panic attacks earlier where there's a little bit of like the buildup of the potential for failure after waiting nearly 20 years to do this. I put all that pressure on myself by waiting, by taking virtue of it taking so long to get, and then putting the time and the hours in. So I was like, I really did feel on myself, a heavy weight of failure as the season progressed, and a fear that I wasn't going to pull it off. And it was a real fear, and, tamping down that fear. And look, I said it in the movie, and I tell it to myself even now, dude, it's just an elk. Like, dude, it's just an elk. Chill out, Brian. You're out there, you're having fun, you're slinging arrows, and you're in the elk woods. It's a great tag. But I'm not wired that way, Ryan.
It's never just an elk, dude.
No.
It's not just an elk. I want to win. I want to succeed. I had a goal. I've worked. I put in the hours behind the bow. I put in the hours in the mountains. I put in the fitness. I put in this stuff, and it's me against nature. And there's this part of me that's just like, it's not just an elk. And no matter how much I try to tell myself that,
if it was just an elk, you would have shot a 3:30 opening day.
Right.
It's never just an elk. Right. Like, it's an adventure. You're there to experience all of it. One thing that I feel like you failed to do in the video, and I saw it, 5 days left. And I was like, oh, Bri. Because it should have said day 22, 5 days left. People don't understand
how many days
and the madness. Dude, I get those highs and lows on a 7-day whitetail hunt. Day 22 is something not very many people understand.
Yeah.
You're 1,000% right.
Stock number 9 on a bull 375 or better is something very few people understand.
You notice that I said day 10, day 8, in the beginning. Then I switched to a countdown. But you're right. Like, having both would have been better. So people could actually, it's really nice to know, let's say you're just watching gritty films and, you have dreams for your own kind of once in a lifetime Holy Grail hunt. It's nice to know that somebody out there that works really hard at it took 3 weeks to finally get it done. It's comforting. I like to hear when I find out Ryan Lampers took 22 days to kill that bull. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, until I've spent 22 days here, I really can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
And I think you're right. It's one of those things where it's somewhat comforting, but also people don't know. I routinely spend 10 to 15 days out on like some of these elk and deer hunts we've been on and bear hunts in the mountains. I've done 10 and 14 days often, which is a lot longer than most people do. And then when you get into 21 days and plus, and those are actual days, but that's not the length of the season. There was 3 days before the season started.
Oh yeah.
There was going home for a couple days while the weight of the hunt's still on you. You still have that tag. It hasn't been fulfilled yet. It hasn't been punched. And, you know, it's a month long. And I took it down to the last 2.5 days, you know. And the next 2 days were like high winds, nasty. And I was like, on the forecast anyway. And I was like, man.
They were bad.
Those last 2 days, I got to kill today, Brad.
Yeah.
I felt I got to kill today, man.
Those high winds cost me a couple times. That same storm that you're talking.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we knew it was coming in. And I don't know, man. I felt like something magical was going to happen in that meadow. Just from all the bugles and the surrounding area that we'd been in and the bulls that I'd seen, like when I called in and stuff. I mean, they were high caliber bulls, like two absolute giants that on the hoof. And I knew, like, okay, this is one, it's hard to get to. Like, it's a hellhole to get into. So I was like, I don't think these bulls have been called to very much. And I also don't think that they have been pressured that much. So I said, something magical can happen.
The truth is, we never went anywhere where there was really much pressure.
Right. That's crazy.
We had the whole place to ourselves.
Yep. Dude, I had everyone on my feet this year. Wow.
The thing is
same unit.
One of the things that happened was we'd be parked in our trailer, you know, and we'd get up in the morning to go some remote place, and we'd have 6 giant sounding bulls around us.
Yep.
And we're like,
screaming,
why are we going to go 2 miles over when there's a bull right there right now? As we're like getting ready to go. And I'm like, so a few times we just were like, dude.
I mean, that's that bull. That's the bull you see, that 5x6 that you see multiple times in the film. It was like, we thought there was going to be another bull there with him. And I think there was, but we never did lay eyes on it.
Well, back to what you said at the very beginning, by the way, the number of bulls in there and the ones I actually laid eyes on, it was discouraging low. Like, we glimpsed a few from the glassing knob, and we glimpsed a few walking through the woods. But I mean, you're talking, especially at one point, I'm probably hearing 10 bulls screaming. I never got to see what any of them looked like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was constant like that.
Even that one bull, like, I called him in and he almost ran me over. He almost ran you over. And even then, like, I still never got a good glimpse of that bull.
I got a good glimpse of him because he was from here to that freaking mount right there. And I'm at full draw. And all I have is his face. And his whole body in the freaking unit is covered with brush while he's looking like this. I'm like, if he takes 2 steps to the left, I have his whole body to shoot. And there's another spot here. I'm like, okay, when he hits that open, I'm going to smoke. He's probably 360, you know?
Yeah.
And he runs and stops again behind those bushes, neck deep. I mean, they know, dude. These old bulls know.
And it didn't help that, like,
well, how come he never exposed his body?
Well, and two, like, as soon as he bugled, I knew he was already, like, he was pretty hot. So I'm like,
that was one of those cases where, you know, you do this bugle back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And
it's chaos.
And I'm like, Brad, he's never going to come in. As soon as he bugles, we are running in our socks. We're running after him. And we're going to scream when we're like 30 yards, 40 yards. Like, it's thick. As soon as he went off, we're like trucking through the woods, running as fast as we can. We get over there. He screams, and that bull came raging toward us.
Yeah, and so it was like this the whole time because he just, like, he wanted to come fight here, and then he wanted to fight here, and I went here, and he went there.
His eyes rolled back. He was just insane.
He was pissed.
And it was a really cool experience. And I was like, that is not my jam. Okay? I'm wired for spot and stock.
Oh, I hate the rut.
I hate it.
The whole time you're talking right now, I'm going, I freaking hate the rut.
Yeah.
I hate it. And I hate that I hate how much how chaotic it is. I want a shot. I want to take my time. And these bulls come running in, and you got to make snapshots and snap decisions. And it's not It's not how I am wired. That's not my strength.
Yep.
You know, give me a 100-yard shot that I got all day to take. I'm better off than a 20-yard quick one.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's a little different, but I've never killed a bull elk on a call-in. That's a little known fact. And
now the opportunities have not been there,
and
or
Brad
have not been there.
Brad set up many bulls for me. And I didn't kill any of them because I didn't want that, not the bull I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But he did call one in, and I just wet the bed. I just moved. I didn't get hidden. I just wasn't where I should have been. And I don't know. I just kind of, but he called it from like 600 yards away. And he's a good 390. So he comes down the hill all the way up, and I can hear him coming through the woods, and I just stand on the trail because I think there's trees there. I would be a full draw when he steps out. I could have moved a little bit, got next to a tree, or just got somewhat hidden. Mm-hmm. It was all happening fast. I wasn't sure where to go. Yeah, and that bull, he just saw me. Yeah, because he came in from a slightly different angle, and he looked right at me, and I'm like, "Holy smokes, yeah. He's huge!"
And then he went away, and then he came back again.
He came back like 6 times, but he never came. I just kept seeing his head, and there's too much stuff in the way.
When it's ready to play out, it always plays out. It's super weird.
Yeah.
You know, one of my guys this year, we heard one of the bulls that I had on camera. In fact, I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, this bull's over here." I'm like, "That's kind of a weird spot for him to be." And he's like, "Oh, we saw him yesterday." I'm like, "What are you doing out here if you saw that bull over there?" Mm-hmm. You know, "Oh, we'll have a shooter over there." And I'm like, I told Aaron, "Go check and see if Wonton's over there." Not Wonton. I forget he had a name.
Yeah.
Go see if that 7 point's over there. Aaron goes in, calls him in the morning, sends me an in reach. It's not him. Cool. Thanks for confirming. Yeah. You know,
yeah.
He's driving down the road, gets this feeling, I'm going to pull over. Pulls over in a spot he hates. Like, if I put Aaron on this route for cameras, he's not a happy boy. It's just a lot of deadfall, and he just hates it. I don't know why he hates it. He just hates it. But he pulled over in that spot, felt like, yeah, we need to go walk up this trail. And he walks up that trail. They weren't 200 yards off the road. Bull bugles. Aaron sets up the shooter. Like, he keeps like popping off, and they decide to switch plans. We need to go. Kind of, you're going to go this way. I'm going to go this way. We'll work him. And just all of a sudden, the bull just steps out 20 yards. And then turns broadside and bugles at 20 yards. And they're standing there in a trail that's wider than that couch.
Yeah.
On the trail with no cover.
Yeah.
It's 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Smoked him.
You're right, though.
380.
You're right. You're right. Because when my big 5 came into the meadow, Brad's working magic for like an hour and a half. It was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And he called in a whole bunch of bulls.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't shooters. They all came in randomly and stuff, and all morning. And so he's just got him going, and that big 5 comes out into the meadow, and he hears us.
I knew right away he had cows because I could hear him off, and I was like, "Man, it's going to be a miracle if this bull does come in."
All he did, it was like Brad pressured him so much that he decided to go out and piss in every wallow and mark his spots and then go back into the trees with his cows.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to come to us.
Right.
But he sure as hell was going to get out there and show us he was in the woods. And he just went around marking each wallow, and Brad filmed him. But he tried mightily to get his attention. He turned and bugled at us once.
Yeah. And I could tell, like, pretty early in the calling sequence, like, he'd bugle, but he never looked that direction, and he'd go right to a wallow. Every time I'd bugle, he'd go right to a wallow. So I'm like, he's showing his dominance. He's going to go to his cows. He's not coming. He's not leaving those cows.
You could just read his body. He just ignored us.
Yep.
All that, but it took an hour and a half, I think, of Brad just, all the other elk were just getting worked up, and he's like, "Dude, do I have to go out there and like mark my area and like show everybody I'm king?" You know, you just tell he came out with just attitude, but he also seemed to purposely snub us. It was just, well, all the other elk, you don't see it in the picture because you're zoomed in, but there's other bulls in the meadow, like running to us, standing there. Like there's chaos out there in the meadow with all these lesser bulls who can't stop looking at us. He completely ignored us. And then he walked off, and he ignored all those other bulls too. He just was like, I'm the stud. And then he just went off in the woods. So when we circled around and came around, we were almost to the crest of that hill. We were a couple hundred yards from the crest, and we just were taking our time getting over there. And I knew we'd be on the opposite side of where he went into the trees, and we had to go that way because the wind was ripping up the face pretty hard that day. It was perfect. And so we were just working the wind with the wind in our face. When we were getting close to that meadow, about 30 to 50 yards in front of us.
This is when you're dropping down. Gotcha.
So we're coming down into the meadow after we'd circled around. And as we're coming down, it's thick just in this patch, and a bull just screams at us, and he's close.
Within 25, 30 yards, probably.
Yeah, close.
But it's so thick you can't see.
And he had heard us snap a little branch. You know how it is. Like it's windy and we're sneaking, but he heard something and he just, what are you? And I'm like, bugle back. I mean,
well, I either knew it was either one or two things. Like I'd bugle back and he'd get pissed off and he was going to be in our lap.
Yeah.
Or they push off and they'll still scream their head off. They still make their vocal noises. You know where they're at, but he's going to push off.
And so Brad ripped it at him, and I didn't know which bull it was, you know, but he ripped it at him, and silence. And then like 30 seconds, you can tell he moved off.
Okay.
And he bugled back, and then Brad bugled and he bugled, and then you could hear him again. He's another 50 yards away, bugling back, and then he's 150, 200 yards, and then you can hear him go down into the meadow. Well, that whole thing, because they'd all bedded, it was kind of quiet, and it was 10 o'clock or whatever, 9, or it was in the morning, and they kind of had settled a little bit by then. Everything had gone kind of quiet. Well, we kicked the bee's nest, you know.
Yeah.
And that caused chaos. As he got up and a bunch of cows got up, and then he bumped into some other bulls in the vicinity. They got up, and then what had happened is they rolled into that meadow, and the big five had come out, and now they were kind of now like, they didn't want to interact, but they got pushed into it, you know?
Yeah.
And now we just caused this chaos. And instead of them being focused on whatever we were in the woods, I mean, I'm sure they thought we were elk to mostly, you know, because I often think if you're bugling like that, they don't think you're a human. They just don't want to fight with some bull they don't know, you know? They kind of want to be in some thicker stuff. And there's probably some education there, like, let's be wise here. They they went about 150 yards, and that put them into down the hill. And then you just have bulls just fighting and screaming and yelling. And we come over, and we could hear them bugling and popping off all over. And what you can't see in the movie is like, you know, there's elk over here, there's elk over there, there's elk over here. I mean, it was just like a magic. And the wind was hard in my face. I mean, and like you were saying earlier, when it just sort of happens, it happens. Dude, these two start posturing, they're so focused on each other. And then my bull climbs the hill to get that high ground. He's smart, you know.
Oh, yeah.
This other bull like stays below.
I paid attention.
And then that smaller bull's like, well, I'll fight you with these trees between us.
Yeah.
And they start going pretty hard. A few times they like
there was a lot of like just tip touching, but then there was like a few times where it was like wham, tree snap.
And they really tested each other.
Yep.
And dude, talk about kind of an easy stalk, you know, when they're fighting like that. It's like, I knew, okay, I'm going to kill this bull. I'm going to actually kill him.
You're rolling.
And
it was fun watching that part of it.
Yeah.
I came to full draw, 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. It was like, I still want to watch the bulls, but I'm like, I still want to get Brian drawn. So I was like,
I could feel your struggle in the film.
I'm like, oh, which one? Like, this is cool.
You're by yourself going, I don't want to miss the shot. Wait, I don't want to miss the shot.
I knew I was like, I need to get Brian drawing
at least once.
At least once.
You know.
Yep. Because the first couple times, like I was on the bull, and then I look over and Brian's already drawn. I'm like, crap. So I'm like, okay. And then when you let back down and you move down further, I'm like, okay, the bulls are still doing the same thing they've been doing. Like I'm gonna get him drawn back, and then I can go back to the elk.
The way that it unfolded was his butt was to me, you know. So I'm doing this crescent moon kind of.
How far was that
circle?
How far was Brad filming from?
I was about 60, and I was about 20 yards above Brian.
And you cut 20 off?
Yes. But I went at an angle because I was trying to get the side shot.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm dropping, now what's really interesting about this meadow area, if we stay high enough, the wind sucks up. But as soon as you drop into the meadow, it's ricochets down and sucks right into the
it literally bounces back off the mountain.
So
right
if you stay up this elevation, it goes up.
Oh, I know very well.
If you drop just 30 yards down, now it sucks hard into the meadow.
Especially if you have water.
Yes.
Right.
And there's a lot of water.
That's part of the part that's killing you. Once you got closer to that elevation.
That coolness is just sucking it down.
Yep. It's weird how it pulls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to come through the meadow, but
the
wind sucks right into where they're bedded.
No, you played it smart.
So we're like, well, if we climb high enough, now we have because you can see the wind ripping up from the desert.
Yeah.
You know, and you can feel it. But as soon as you went into the little pocket, it would suck back down. I'm like, this is bullshit. So you can't really come from, and so by coming above, but when I'm on that hill, it was ripping. But as I was coming down, it was pulling back down again. So I'm like, I can't go lower because
I remember watching you angle thinking that. Like, I wonder how hard he has to play that wind the closer he gets. I remember, like...
I came back up.
Uh-huh.
I was like, wind in my face, wind. And then I got down. I felt this. I was like, oh, it's too low. And so I came back up. The thing was, when he fought, he turns his butt toward me. Right when I was going to shoot him, butt. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And then I drop a little further. But he kept twisting in the complete wrong. I'm like, if I just stayed where Brad was, I could shoot him by now. And... so I was like getting a little bit, I was calm, but I was like, make a good shot. You know, you got it. Well, he disengaged from the fight a couple of times. And when that wind ripped down, he immediately stopped. And I saw his head turn and I saw the whites of his eyes. And then I saw him and he turned like this and he looked right at me. Now I was crouched. And I don't know that he saw me, but I mean, I can see him looking right in my direction, scanning. And that other bull charges in. He sees out of the corner of his eye, and he goes back into the fight. I'm like, I'm not waiting anymore.
Yeah, thank goodness for the rut.
I'm shooting him. He was quartering steep. If you watch the video,
I could tell. And
the arrow goes in, the slow motion begins at entry, but if you watch it carefully, you can see it slowly sink about 6 inches deeper.
Well, it got hung up on that rib for a second. Pump.
Yeah.
Yep.
It did.
And so, like,
and
some of the stuff we'll see behind the scenes, like, you'll see it didn't cut the rib, you know,
face on.
It cut the rib and it exploded that rib all the way through.
It went lengthwise through that rib.
Oh, I'm a fan of those broadheads.
It's gone.
We talked about it prior at the diner.
Yeah.
I remember talking about broadheads. I'm a fan. So
and what worried me though was there's no way to hit the offside lung with that angle. You pick one.
Pick a vital.
You pick one because
you're hoping for heart.
Exactly.
You pick one. You're hoping for heart.
But he was downhill quite a bit. Like that's the thing that's so weird about the video is you don't realize that how downhill it is.
Yeah,
at least when I
on
look
the
at the
camera
video.
end, like it doesn't seem like it. But I mean, he's down below me 25 yards, probably 30 yards.
I think it showed up pretty good. I could see it.
On the second shot, you know, it looks funny because that bull turns and looks right at me, but it looks like he's looking at the camera. Angle is funky.
It's weird. It's weird because he's below me quite a ways. Then Brian's below me.
He almost looks level with Brad, but he's down from me. Yeah. But it looks like he's straight across from the TV because the way the angle looks. But anyway, that shot, when it went in, it devastated that lung, and it went all the way through the lung lengthwise, and put, square centered of it, and just went all the way up until the chest cavity where it just stopped. It just hit the hard stuff inside the chest cavity and didn't go any further. And I was really worried about that angle, because if if you practice enough, your left and right has no forgiveness at that angle.
Mm-hmm.
You're 2-3 inches too far left, and especially with a big fixed mechanical head like that, you can just get hung up in the grass bag or something. And if you're too far forward, then you just hit the shoulder. And so I took my time. I was like, only shoot, Brian, if you're feeling like dialed, and it was a surprise release. I was just kind of squeezing through, and we, in camp, this is something I think a lot of archery hunters do not do. I probably shoot 100 arrows a day.
Mm-hmm.
If I have the luxury of shooting, if I'm in camp in these summer type hunts and these elk ones, or even in Arizona, I shoot. I just never stop shooting the whole time I'm in camp.
Dude, we set up targets all around our camp at different ranges. And that's because you're up at 4:10 every morning.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, that's usually when I start knocking doors, is 4:10. You go to bed at 11:30. You almost have to get back to camp for nap.
Yeah.
Because by day 3, you're ready to put a bullet in your head.
Yeah.
If you're not napping, like, it's
and that
just
afternoon,
too early, too late.
Throwing arrows down range and just feeling the release in your hand and just practicing. So by the time I was on that shot, I had been shooting for a month.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, lots of arrows, plus all the months leading up to it. So when I put that pin on there and just slowly pulled through, I was like, I knew it was risky because there's not a lot of margin for error, but 40 yards, dude, I'm putting into like
yards.
a quarter, a golf ball. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Just do it, Brian. You're going to get it in there. And you get this broadhead in that lung, he's dead. It might take a while, but he is dead. And the second that arrow goes in, he started gushing blood out the hole, like gushing. And it's
hard for a minute.
It's a high entry point. So for that much blood to come out, and there was blood all the way to the kill, like just a good dose of blood. For an entry point that high, over mid body, I was
with no exit on the low side, the
you
outside.
hit that artery pulling from the liver. You did. You had to have. And that's probably what killed him more than anything else. Was clipping that artery, because that's a big one that sits that high.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
The second shot was better than it looked. I beat myself up in camera and when I was there, but when we got there, he does duck just a little. I mean, he's on the way down as the arrow is going in. So I don't know what that does when a body is moving and it enters and he's pulling downward, because I've slow motioned it many times to see. And it's still moving this direction while his body's also moving downward. What does that do? You know what I mean? Like, does it just continue on his trajectory there? I don't really know. This is the fascinating thing with, all this stuff.
Everything.
But that arrow went in and it came out.
I was going to say, where was the exit?
It came out in the crease on the opposite side.
Yep. Right about mid body.
Took out left lung. Right lung was done.
Yep. Took out.
Because I wouldn't. 2 hours. Dude, I had 12 hours on elk. If I know it's one lung.
Yeah.
If I would watch that video, I would have made you go back to camp. We'll go find him tomorrow. For real. Because that would have been 11 in the morning. 12 hours would be 11 at night. Been like, we're going back.
Yeah. I was prepared. I told Brad we could wait till tomorrow. We could. I don't care. Like, wait as long as we need to. And so we were like, because I knew it was a single lung hit. So I was like, because I wasn't confident what the hell happened with the second arrow.
You never are when they don't die in front of you.
Yeah. But I was pretty sure, just because I've seen that wound channel on some other animals, because you're not dealing with lack of oxygen. Like, if you hit both lungs, they can't breathe. There's no air. They're choking on blood. You hit one lung, you're no longer dealing with suffocation, right? You're them drowning in their blood. You're actually dealing with hemorrhaging. You need them to lose enough blood, they die.
Well, you're waiting for as long as the diaphragm isn't cut, you're waiting for that cavity to fill up with blood to compress both lungs to flatten.
Yeah.
So it's hemorrhaging to a degree, but you're waiting for both lungs to go out by compression,
internal bleeding, and so.
And what you don't really see on film is like, I mean, I'm like, it got you hear the one part of like, it got the one lung, but I don't know if it got the other. And we were kind of like, maybe
I knew it. I said, when you said that, I said, oh, the shot was steep, Brad, like super steep. Like I was freaked out how steep that shot is. And if you look at it real close, when that arrow goes in, that fletching is actually like an inch or two from the side of the bull's body. I mean, it was.
Oh, it's tight.
It's tight. And then as he runs, it kind of sticks out a little and then comes back. It's not like he's coming in like the angle of the arrow is this. It's like flush with the side of him. And so I was like, no, I don't think that the trajectory of the arrow wouldn't even come close to the other lung.
The tensest part of that movie for me, because it was long.
Yeah. I was worried about that.
It was a long show. Well, I would be like you. I would want to show the happy points, the sad points, the struggle. But the most tense part for me was when you guys like, yeah, we waited 2 hours. We're going to slip in here. And I'm like, oh, don't do it. That was the tensest part of the show. That's your gray hair talking. It wasn't the shot. It wasn't the bulls fighting. It wasn't any of that. I'm like, okay, this textbook. 2 hours. Oh, I'm like getting uncomfortable.
We also decided like, that, we weren't committed, right? And so if you notice, if you pay attention in the video, I'm really far from the bull when I see him.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't have the camera running, but I have my binos. I just put him down and I'm like, yes. So, I mean, we followed the blood and we glassed like every inch of blood we could as far out as we could.
As much blood as you had. Now, I didn't know if you're showing all the blood, because you can have splatters and then 200 yards of nothing.
No, it's pretty much like was a pretty constant. Just
but when you have that, that's another part of the story too that wasn't really there.
Yep.
So yeah.
And I was so focused on trying to see the bull long before we ever got that far into the blood trail. So I was like, we were going so slow.
Yep.
We took our time. So that when we didn't go very far, from about 30 yards from where I shot him is about where we saw him from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Once we hit that very top of that little ridge that was right there.
Then I could glass the woods and I'm like,
once you said
there
like,
he is.
60 yards in, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, got that artery, dead bull.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened.
Yeah. I started pumping pretty quick.
It's always a struggle with elk when you don't see them die in front of you. I've seen bulls that have what you think are perfect shots and they're alive 6 hours later and they can go miles.
They're so strong.
They can go miles dying.
Yeah.
And when they do that in that area, you're screwed, man. I mean, if they don't leave a solid blood trail, you're going to lose a beautiful animal.
Done.
So I wanted to wait longer. Brad's the one that actually was like,
so it was Brad's fault.
Yes,
whatever.
Yeah. I was like, let's wait 4 hours, 6
Brand's
hours.
Pillowcase, and it was Brad's fault.
Yeah. Brad's was like, no, he was like, he calmed me down. He's like, he's dead, dude. He's dead. If I wasn't going to see him and we were on that blood, I'm like, we would just back out and take our time. We would just be like, no. But as it turned out, there he was. And I was just elated, emotionally, like, and blown away, putting hands on him, and I've killed a lot of bull elk with a bow, but carrying those antlers at home and putting them on the wall next to everything I've ever killed, there's nothing like it. This bull is so different, so special. He's like 353 inches on a 5, which the mass on a 5 like that looks a lot bigger of an animal than it scores. And when I carried that in, I set it next to these other bulls on my wall. I'm like, these are childish bulls. Like these are like little bulls.
It's different
Short
when you're
tines.
Dealing with age class. That's why I pick wonton every day. It's different. And honestly, I'm gonna shit on your story.
Yeah.
He's not special. He is.
Yeah.
But your story's special. We're going back to your emotional spot when you walked up on him, right? Mm. Dude, I watched Eric's film with the Firebowl. Like, dude, I well up. I know the emotion, the heartache, the full circle that I'm telling you none of my guys get. The scouting, the preseason, like you went through 3 phases. I say there's 4.
Yeah.
Right? You have
For
your
sure.
routine. You have their kind of lock up for a couple days. Right after they peel, they kind of lock up for a bit. They find a little safe spot that safe spot is 100% dependent on wind. Then you get a transition point, and then you get rut. And Utah's lucky enough we get all 4 of those, because a lot of places within that month, the rut rolls into the rifle.
Right.
And we're done. We don't get much of a rut. When people draw Utah, they're like, ugh, like Utah doesn't like their bow hunters. It's not true in southern Utah. You can get all 4.
Yep.
And so you got all those phases. And so the struggle, the up, the down, the excitement of the trail cameras, like you got the full spectrum. I expected more waterworks from you. I cry way harder. So
I cut them out.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, you can see, like, it's always, you're sharing in a vulnerable moment. And I actually, when I came down on the bull and I was elated, I put my hands on it and stuff, I was completely taken over by this wash of emotion that I didn't expect to have, of relief. Like gratitude and relief. Like I could just relax for the first time in months.
Very few understand what you're talking about. With that kind of pressure and film and those many days of field, I can't. I told people this before. No one believes me. Like, I've seen very few people do what Eric Chester did. Like, sure, there's guys who, like, that was my target bull and I killed him.
Yeah.
But to sit the amount of days you do, to start 22 days a field before the season begins, running cameras. I know what Eric Chester did.
Yep.
And I'm like, I only know 10 guys that have done something like that.
Yeah.
And like, now you can say, I experienced that, and that's hell. And I remember getting super emotional watching Eric's film. I did. I was like, nobody knows what that is. I'm the only guy in the film crying.
Right.
I know what that is, what he's been through. And man, it is trauma. It's trauma.
Yeah. Well,
and it's special.
It surprised me. Because I don't normally get like that with, animals I've hunted and stuff. But there was just this overwhelming sense of relief and thankfulness that it finally happened. And I also had in my back of my mind, it was a whole combination of things. I was reconciled to the fact that, I'm trying to tell a story. I want to bring people along as best I can on these adventures we go on. Bow hunting's tough, and I don't have a dedicated cameraman. Like, Brad's a caller, you know what I mean? And a cameraman. He's doing 2 shifts at once. So there's a lot of things people never saw.
It's hard when you're shifting hats, huh, Brad?
Yes, it is. I tried to capture most of it. There's a lot of bulls that came in that you don't see on camera because I'm 20 yards over there.
The fact that he got what he got,
doing my elk calling stuff.
Amazing. And then I knew that I watched the footage before we recovered him.
Yeah.
I saw what I saw. I'm like, 2 bulls fighting. I got to experience that, sneak up on him, put a well-placed arrow in him. He's a beautiful 5 in a big meadow. I have the video of him in the meadow 3 hours earlier, just stomping like a boss. I'm like,
looks so big.
I'm like, all of that was, I was reconciled to get nothing like that. Just the back of my head as I shot something that no one ever saw on camera. So not only did I get the bull, I also got the video to go with it. I got the magic, the bull screaming, their behavior. So I was overwhelmed when I was just sitting there soaking in what we had just accomplished, that it panned out, and that I had gambled on getting nothing. And I was reconciled to, I probably would. That was the next 2 days were just going to be stormy. And I was like, and when there's something different about succeeding after you've kind of accepted that you lost, it's just something sweeter about snatching victory from the jaws of defeat.
Yeah. There's
something about that just was overwhelming. And I bawled and then I cut most of that out. I try to leave a little bit in there so that you people could see the authenticity there. Like, but I don't really want people to see me break down.
I think you did a good job with it. You showed gratitude. There was nothing masculine, cocky about any of it. It was handled very well. And it's interesting. Like, you try to tell that story, and every viewer saw it different.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Eric's film, I was the only one in the freaking whole theater crying. I'm like, nobody understands that. But every person in that theater saw something different than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, and I've had some of the greatest bow hunters in the West hunt with me. Without naming names, I've seen the best of the best of the best and watched them fail on the same tag you had. And so, dude, there's luck involved. There's always luck. It's 60-40. I've told you that before on your podcast. Like, it's always 60-40. It's 60% hard work, 40% luck, and you have to have both.
Yeah.
However, like, when it does come together, that kind of, you just don't get it anywhere else in the world. And there's not a drug alive that's that good.
I mean, you listen to a lot of military guys, ex-NFL guys and stuff like that, and they're like, man, something I've never experienced. They're like the hardest dudes out there. I go bow hunting, and there's no emotion that I can express shows how that feels, you know, and it's true. Like, we get to experience all the time.
I've heard some people say, like, well, you know, ask guys that are accomplished at something, was winning that UFC fight. You know, was that like, this archery kill was, you know,
in the quiet in the backwoods where no one else is there. It's you and Brad.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's something about it that is,
it's intimate.
You can't repeat it. And I think part of it's because there's so little control. Like, you do the best to be the skilled and to make the right decision and all that. But when you're in nature, you're humbled because you don't get to make it happen. You just don't.
Yep.
You have to sort of let it happen and make the right move at the right time. But I can't just say, I'm killing a 400-inch bull and I'm just going to do it. If I put in the hours, it's just going to happen. It's no, like, like you said, there's this element of luck. There's this element of, just,
so
there's
much
no
unknown.
guarantee, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, at the same time, I don't want to state, like, oh, I just saved the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to make it's just a hunt. Mm-hmm. You know, I see guys make a hunt story or tell a hunt story or do something. And it's like,
nothing altered anything in this world.
No.
Your kids' lives didn't change. Your life.
I didn't save us from World War III or do anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I look at that stuff, but yet it feels outsized for what it is. It feels big.
It's like a single mom graduating college. Like, it's somebody like setting a goal, doing something that should be impossible. And people don't understand your odds of breaking book. Now, you didn't break book. You didn't.
Yeah.
You killed a really big bull. And on a different year with different feed, I guarantee you that bull's bigger. However, he's a big 5 this year and he's a giant 5. And you should be very proud of this bull. But when I start breaking down statistics to people, you know, you're on a unit with, yes, it's limited entry. Yes, it's got upper age class because it's a hard place to hunt. But statistically, it's 30% success rates on kills. 30%. That's for every kill.
Yeah.
That's for a 310 bull, 30%.
Right.
And then you start breaking down even more. Okay, so, you know, my bulls that are over 6 years old, which it usually takes 8 or 9 to actually start cracking book in my experience. And so, like, bulls over 6 years old, you know, you knock that 30% down to 5%.
Yeah.
You knock 9-year-old bulls, the ones that actually break book, down to 1%.
Mm-hmm. Your
Your odds of kicking something out, that's like me seeing you pass that 360 bull opening day. I'm like, ooh, big mistake. Big mistake. However, your goal wasn't to kill a bull. Your goal was to tell a story. Now, you passing that bull pays tribute to the hard work you did in July. You knew what you were after. You knew what the unit was capable of. That helped weigh in your decision for that day. And that's what people don't understand. They always think the trail camera is like some sneaky. I watched a reel the other day of some whitetail hunter like, you want to see your age class come back, get rid of the trail cams in Illinois. Like, you dumb
Yeah.
I dare you to try. I dare it. Like, maybe in that world, maybe. Here, it's not existent. It's not real.
The thing is,
And they've taken away something fun for everybody. I watched your excitement and naming the bull, and I'm thinking, all these guys waiting 20 years for this tag used to do that every year just for fun to get out with their kid.
there's no question that this year, I dreamt sort of about this tag for a long time, having friends and knowing you and others that have had it, and knowing the season's odd compared to a lot of other states, you know, the way it starts. And there was a bit of frustration because when I dreamt about this in the past, I dreamt about running the cameras throughout, knowing that a couple bulls I'm after hit that wallow that day. And now I'm going to go sit that thing because you're running that camera into the season, you know, and there's something about that helps you go for the biggest of the biggest and the oldest of the oldest, especially in an area this dense and thick and without a lot of glassing points and stuff like that. And so they took that away. So this hunt, I couldn't run a camera after July. Ryan, I may not have killed the biggest bull, but I did it without cameras too. I did it on a different level. Like, if I had cameras,
You'd have still been looking for hook.
And the thing is here's the thing. When I could be singing a totally different song because I might have known when hook was hitting this wallow or that wallow. And instead of spending time on this wallow, I could have been on that one. Like, all I can know is what I know with feet on the ground. With cameras, I could have honed that down, and waiting so long for that tag, I was a little frustrated that I couldn't use that tool. Where guys in the past, they got to, but at the same time,
I saw guys eat the tag for the same reason.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a blessing and a curse.
You could have been getting him in that other corner. Oh, I got him hitting this wallow, and you could have spent all your time over there passing multiple little bulls and ate your freaking tag.
True.
Because of the same piece
you're
of
right. You're right.
I saw it happen time and time again.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. You know, when I passed on Bones, I was this close to killing Hook like 3 times. This close. And let's say I did. Passing Bones would have been the best move I ever made.
Oh, yeah? I think that's why I said in the beginning, you made the right decision. From the get-go, your goal wasn't to kill.
If
your
I'd have
goal
killed
wasn't
Bones,
the 30%.
If I'd have killed Bones, I'd have been so thrilled by having a giant bull like that. And I would have wondered the whole time. I mean, I would have had a real short story to tell. And here's the thing. Had I done it, I wouldn't have learned some things about myself that I learned this time.
Yeah.
There's things about myself that I'm a different person now. Each time we go through stacks of events like this throughout our lives, you come out just a little bit different than before. And had I just shot Bones that first day, Cousin Ben running the camera, I'd have been like, this is cool.
No trauma.
None. I just wouldn't have had the same, you know, and again, that's why I say self-inflicted. That's self-inflicted, dude. I could have come away from this with a totally different, I mean, I sort of shot myself in the foot for this experience. And at the same time, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I forced myself into it. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, you know, because Ryan does this all the time. Lampers does this all the time. And that's because he's not into the animal. He's into the experience. 1,000%. He gets a great tag and he has an animal walk out on the first day of the hunt and he's got 20 days planning for this. He's like, I'm not shooting it. I'm like, that is what we came here for. Yeah, but not on the first day. Not until So then we go through weeks of suffering to shoot at something smaller than he could have shot the first day.
Well, it's the experience. That's the gray in your beard, bro.
Yep.
I'm telling you, man, So that sheep I shot that I was so sick about, 5 of the 7 tags ate their tag on that unit. Day 18, I would have shot that sheep in a heartbeat.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
I think I would have been less upset about it.
Well, that's how I feel. I mean, I had that sheep tag in 21, and I didn't shoot one. My brother did. I could have shot all 3 of those rams for an hour and a half before my brother got to where I got him up to. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm young. I was 32 at that time, 33 at that time.
You got sheep tag at 32?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And so I'm like, I should be able to draw
Idaho
it again.
residents.
I was like, I should be able to draw it again, but I'm like, they weren't absolute giant rams, but also like,
It's a sheep.
it was a sheep. But at the same time, I was like, dude, the experience I had with my dad and my brother packing out his ram, like that was what did it for me. That was cool.
That's the thing. I was telling Brad, I would rather have the bull I got than Hook because of all the story and the experience and the emotions and just the struggle that went with it. So all I feel is like this immense sense of gratitude. And I was saying this the other day, it was yesterday. We're in the living room. I got family around. Everyone came over because it's close to Thanksgiving. So extended sisters and they're all there. And so we all watched it together, you know, and I look around the room and this subject came up where we were looking at these elk on the wall and different animals. And I'm like, I cannot look at any one of these sets of horns on the wall. I can't look at any of them without being instantly brought back to what I had to do to get that one, or who I was with, or how old I was. Every single one I look at, I'm like, see, when people are like, you're a trophy hunter, or why would you have all these animals hanging up in your house? It's because it's not the animal. It's a representation of the struggle and the experience. And it's a memento of that. And there's nothing like, I can look at a picture and I can look at, you know, even listen to a podcast and be brought back, but there is something about those horns that is like it's a time machine. And I'm right there next to my cousin Ben shooting one of his first elk and my first big buck I ever shot, you know, and you look at that and you're like, it doesn't mean anything like that to everyone else who comes in that room. When they see that bear skull and they that's not what they see. They see something totally different. But from the person who went out and experienced all those things, every single one of those things in that house are like my life. You know what I mean?
Small victories.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get it. That's why I texted you when I texted you last night. I'm an Eagles fan. Last night they were playing the Rams, and I love the Rams too, but I watched that game. I'm thinking, God, if I'm going to talk to Brian tomorrow, I got to get through that whole film. And for some reason, I was thinking 30, 40 minutes. I flip it over, and I'm like, oh, man. All right. Turning the Eagles off. Got to watch this film. But not mad about it. Maybe a little bitter. But I texted you.
Yeah.
Pretty late, right? So proud. Because I knew what that was. I knew what you put into that. Yep. Very few people, a lot of people experience that. A lot of people do preseason scouting. A lot of people find the elk they want to do. Some people kill them, some people don't. But those archery hunts, that long hustle, like day 6 of not seeing an elk.
Yep.
Due to very few people understand what that is. Or, you know, the guy I took this year kept telling me over and over again, like, these elk are really smart. I'm like that bull you're watching right there, he's 11 and a half years old.
Right.
You stalked him 7 times and without naming names. Like, you are one of the greatest hunters that have ever lived. Like, I see these guys like screw up and screw up and screw up and screw up and get frustrated. And it's just like you, I have to turn them on and say, bro, this is the fun part.
Yeah.
Like when you kill it, it's not fun anymore. Like we're going to get there.
Right. I tell you, Ryan, somebody asked in the comment section of the video, they said, do you think you would have got the same caliber bull had you done this hunt 15 years ago? It made me think about it. It was a great question. There's always luck, right? You put yourself out there, you put in the time, there's luck. But the honest answer is I think no. Because I have a lot more respect for people who pull it off on a hunt like that. The more I hunt, the less naive I am about how difficult it is. The more I hunt with a bow, again, like, of course you can sort of buy a great hunt, you know? And I thought waiting 20 years to get a tag would actually, you know, really set me up for a much easier hunt. Ryan, it's not. It's not at all. It is if I just wanted to kill a nice 340 bull. I could have done that lots of times.
Mm-hmm.
I could have killed a few nice 350, 360 inch 6x6 bulls too. I mean, we had some 360 bulls that were 6x6s, and I just hemmed and hawed. I'm like, it's not getting me excited. It's not. I mean, I have a lot of, you know, if you look at that camera, I'm carrying around that 360.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 bulls that Brad brought in, and I'm like, Brad, what do you think? And he's just like, I could tell, like, he's like, are you ever going to shoot a damn bull, or are you just going to like eat this tag? But it was all about eye of the beholder, excitement. You know, it was all about the thing that I felt made me want to punch the tag.
When you saw that 5-point out there, was that like
when I saw him in the meadow? Done.
I could tell. I could
There
tell
wasn't-
instantly. Like his, not demeanor, but he changed.
everyone always talks score? Like, how do you score a bull? How do you decide?
What makes
my
you-
guide Aaron always has the best answer. It's like, well, there's like, oh, and then there's oh,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I felt so good about the decision to shoot him, the second I saw him in the meadow, throwing up mud and everything, I was like, oh, that's a boss. That had me so excited. I'm like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want it.
Mhm.
I don't remember
And
if it's in the film or not, but I remember Brian was like, I want that bull. Like he specifically said, I want that bull.
That's cool.
And I was like, no, he's a stud.